It's really interesting. Web3 is like, you know, probably as much about the culture as it is about like blockchain.
Mm.
And blockchain, obviously like enables ownership in a way that hasn't existed like in the Web2 model of like, your data being owned by some big entity rather than you. But like what that then enables is this culture of like really high ownership.
I guess it's this interesting thing that giving people that space gives them a sense of ownership, and when they get a sense of ownership, their kind of participation and generosity and energy is much higher than if they are just purchasing, or if it's just a transaction. They sort of have a much deeper connection to the product and the output and the extension of it, which is, I think, like a key thing in building a passionate, successful audience, or an audience that pushes what you do much further.
When you bring a really big group of people together and let them exercise their own creative or let them influence in one direction or another, when we've been successful with it, I think we have found that the set of all of the people end up sort of speaking for the space in a way that is like really, really incredible. It happened with the way that like a lot of Bored and Dangerous was created. And I think we're seeing it a little bit with like the new Azurian PFPs as well, that like hundreds of people submitted images to like craft like a couple mood board options. And the consistency across all of the images was like, it blew us away.
Building in public is it's a really interesting thing that really neither of us had much experience. I really don't know how much if it's even possible to have experience in prior to just doing it. And like you said, the highs are significantly higher, and the lows are significantly lower. You get celebrated for things that you do, more than you would in another environment, and then you also kind of get torn apart. And so obviously it's what we signed up for, though, and I think it's something that we're really excited about. And we do believe that building in public alongside of your community is the right thing to do, and it's where the future
Mm.
is. So I do think we've bounced back, although we do have a long way to go. I think we would rather have what happened happen than no one have said anything at all, because it actually shows that people
Mm.
care and they want to see improvement. The moment where we drop something horrible and people just don't say anything, we'll know that we've like lost our community.
Brands have made mistakes forever. It's like, it's not a new, like, I don't think it's a new thing, but I do think what this technology has unlocked is the ability for people to feed back at a rapid and public rate, which I don't think has existed as poignantly like as this moment. But I think what is testament to how you think about the world is how you reacted, because there's different reactions. Some people, if you think about like a Gap rebrand, they just pulled the pin. They were like, oh, we're moving back, which I don't think was the right choice. And then there's the other route, which is to say, well, we're doubling down. Like, you can't tell us what to do. This is our company. This is our, like, we're forging forward. But you actually sort of took a moment and engaged, which I think must not have been easy, but it seems to have worked out in your favor.
It's really interesting. Web3 is like, you know, probably as much about the culture as it is about like blockchain.
Mm.
And blockchain, obviously like enables ownership in a way that hasn't existed like in the Web2 model of like, your data being owned by some big entity rather than you. But like what that then enables is this culture of like really high ownership and sort of the merging of like creators and community members, or like brands and the community members that like participate sort of in that ecosystem. And so it's interesting. I'm curious myself, like how this ends up making an impact not only on like the Web3 brands that are working today, but like it's crossed our mind that maybe the first step that a Web2 entity takes into Web3 is actually not related to the blockchain, but is instead related to redefining the culture around how they interact with like their community members
Mm.
and their fans and things like that. And so we went from blockchain to community co-creation. They may go the other way. We just felt that NFTs were like this like incredible, like it was essentially like where our skill sets overlapped in like the Venn diagram.
Yes.
It was creative, it was tech, it was brand, and I think the luckiest thing for us is that we felt that we had that realization right around when the Bored Ape Yacht Club came out.